Welcome to today's session. I'm David Erie, the Chief Technology Officer of the Center for Innovative Technology. And we're excited to be here today to talk to you about how Virginia's Smart Communities State Action Plan creates opportunity. And in fact, I've taken the liberty of retitling a little bit because we've moved on beyond just a plan. We're now building. We're building a smart community that has implications statewide as a model for communities across our state. And so we're excited to share some of that with you today. Um, First of all, let me introduce you to two of my longtime colleagues and collaborators here. Mike Cannon from Stafford County and Marianne Means from Enclave. Marianne, do you want to say hello and introduce yourself, please?
Sure, thank you, David. I'm Marianne Mines, president of Enclave Networks, and for the majority of my career, I've been focused on security solutions for our nation's critical infrastructure, and including cybersecurity for control systems and now the Internet of Things. So it's very much a privilege to be here today and appreciate working with Stafford County and the Center for Innovative Technology.
Thank you. And Mike, how about yourself?
Sure. I'm Mike Cannon. I'm the Chief Technology Officer for Stafford County. I've been here about 4 years, and David and I have been planning this for a couple of years now, and really excited about our test bed and ultimately our downtown Stafford that's going to be built.
Yeah, great, thank you. And good segue, it has been a couple of years, so let me just briefly provide a little bit of our history in terms of the Virginia's journey as a smart state. So we've been at this now as a state for about 3.5 years, a little bit more starting back in 2017, helping to stand up the Smart City Works Accelerator, starting an R&D development program with the Department of Homeland Security called City Labs, our Smart Communities Working Group really developing the findings and recommendations for where the state should go. And we were very pleased to be the first Smart State awarded in 2018 as the Smart Cities Council Readiness Challenge winner. So 2018, the state, of course, we had our election and new administration came in. Very pleased at that point to have the new office of Chief Data Officer, Chief Broadband Advisor created by the governor. Big steps that have really helped enable our smart communities journey. And then in October 2018 was really a turning point, I think, for us at a state. I mentioned the Virginia State Action Plan. That was when that was put together and published, sponsored by the National Governors Association, as well as our Smart Cities Week in DC 2 years ago. Seems like longer than that, but exciting opportunity. And our associated workshop where we had about 250 people for 2 days help plan what the future of smart communities in Virginia would look like. And that's the point where we stood up at the end and said, all right, enough strategizing, enough meetings, let's go off and build some of this. So the state action plan really has fairly simple 3 tenets. What can the state do to help empower communities? What can we do to use smart communities as a vehicle of economic development for everybody in Virginia? And then let's put together some pilot projects to both demonstrate these possibilities and build the local expertise. I mentioned briefly the DHS program. We've been fortunate to have that operating in parallel as we've been on this journey. DHS Science and Technology is very interested in public safety and related technologies. And so they've helped us both develop and pilot a number of the different capabilities that we'll be using going forward, including some environmental sensors, some indoor and constrained area unmanned systems to support public safety, and very extensive work in smart buildings, including some testing, actually live training exercises that we did in association with smart buildings. So all of those technologies and the learning associated with them are going into what are now our showcase project, the Virginia Smart Community Test Bed, and the associated development of Smart Stafford that Mike referred to just a moment ago. The image in the top left there is from the developer's depiction of what that will look like. And there in the upper right, you see actually the future home of our Virginia Smart Community Testbed currently being refurbished. So we have a lot of activity going on. A lot of technology is going into what it takes to make a new development, a new community, like you see there, smart. What does that mean for that to be smart? And so that's the focus of today's discussion. And let me say our approach has been that we've taken a bottoms-up approach. We want to build a strong foundation for this rather than say just a vendor-driven or dashboard-driven kind of approach. What does it really take to make a robust, an innovative, and evolutionary smart community? And so that's been our approach to build from the bottom up. In Virginia, we're fortunate to have great expertise in network and cybersecurity, and so that's been foundational for us. So, Mike, with that, let me open the discussion here. First of all, why don't you tell us a little bit more about the kind of the exciting developments that are going on in Stafford County, developing a new downtown Stafford and so forth.
Sure, happy to. So there's a private developer, GL Properties, that's developing a 12-acre site right adjacent to the government center, as you saw in David's depiction on that slide. And then there's an additional 24 acres that the county owns that will be developed as well. So we're looking at this as two phases. And the thought was, what could really make this stand out and be different from other town centers being developed or that have been developed? And the thought was, let's see if we can make it smart and utilize IoT devices and sensors and all those types of things to improve the quality of life of those that live there and make it an attractive place to visit. And then as we were thinking through this, we also looked at the test center, or test bed, I should say, and we decided that would be a great place to start to introduce the technologies, validate them before they would go into, so to speak, a production environment like a downtown Stafford. So I've been involved in the Rockville Town Center development, so that's why I got kind of involved in this in the beginning, and then as the technology piece started evolving, I became much more involved than I thought I'd be, and I'm really pleased to be and excited about this project.
I guess as CTO, you're kind of central in terms of bringing those technologies into the physical space. This is a really unique opportunity to be working both the technology side and have the real world development to accept it. So what's your role there as CTO? How do you kind of keep all that together?
So yeah, I think since it's a greenfield, I mean, we're looking at building fiber, building the infrastructure from the ground up, and really trying to future-proof it as much as possible. As part of the test bed, we're also putting in 5G small cell from Verizon, so we'll be able to actually test and validate things at very, very high speeds, approaching gig speeds or more, from what I understand. And then we've got a number of use cases we're looking at, including a lot that Marianne will talk about on the security side, which security and privacy are first and foremost our biggest areas we want to focus on. But there's going to be a public safety component to this, looking at drones, as David mentioned earlier, and then looking at sensors for forest fires and also floods that David received funding for, and then also a variety of things around building safety and ways we can look to improve situational awareness for our public safety officers, as well as for assuring that the building's safe from a health perspective too.
Great, thank you. Yeah, it's I think all of us are really intrigued by the possibilities of not just experimenting with cool technologies, but then being able to build, as you say, in a greenfield environment where, in some ways almost anything is possible. So at this stage of development. Marianne, so clearly, Mike highlighted sort of the security issues associated with that. I think everybody's aware, the extensive ransomware and so forth that's going on. Clearly, this is a critical issue for, making smart communities real in the world, is to protect that and so forth. And then Internet of Things, all of those millions of devices that we hear about, I think really complicate the challenge even more. So can you talk a little bit about how you think about security, how you think about IoT security in particular, and then how Enclave is addressing that?
Right. Well, thank you. This is definitely an exciting way to contribute to the safety and advantages that come with the Smart Communities projects. So we'd like to just take a look and imagine if IoT endpoints and systems were inaccessible and invisible, running as they should be inside a true zero trust closed network. And that's the approach we take. So with the explosion of IoT devices and not just any control systems associated with driving the operations of a smart community project. And if you will, just take a moment and think about all the different types of technology that drive our communities today. So we have a lot of interconnectivity, a digital foundation standing up more and more. We have the water treatment plants. We have public utilities that include the energy and power systems. We have telecommunications that drive everything we do, including this virtual event today. And we also have intelligence transportation systems where we're really driving a lot of user and, well, as you're driving down the road, you're getting a lot of conveniences and enhancements provided to you by intelligence transportation systems, the Easy Pass road, for instance, and things like that. So what our mission here at Enclave and supporting this very important IoT testbed is to prove out the advancements available to us today and truly separating the OT and the IoT devices from an IT enterprise and getting the utility and performance out of those IoT devices without presenting them as a part of a cyber attack surface, for instance. So taking them, removing them from a hacker's visibility so we can actually drive and have resilient communities and enjoy the benefits from all these smart technologies that are coming out there. So you look at really the digital foundation, as I mentioned, and the anticipated benefits coming from a smart city to include telehealth and reaching rural communities, not only the smart city itself, but extending those capabilities to other parts of our Commonwealth of Virginia and states in general. So we've been taking an approach that really validates our platform and the way we have configured it to address this issue. And we're working across a number of initiatives, including Center of Innovative Technology initiatives that were mentioned on the slides before, and bringing some of the things we learned from those to this IoT testbed. So that includes initiatives with Cyberbytes Foundation, which is just almost co-located there in Stafford County, and the Industrial Control Systems Village, which is an initiative, also another nonprofit that has pulled together all the different kinds of technologies that can be, we're learning from how to secure those, and we can bring those to the IoT testbed. We've also been validated at the National Cyber Range. So we're really putting this technology through the paces. And so the National Cyber Range tested it and validated the infrastructure in this approach to include a layer 2 over layer 3 kind of separation from the IT enterprise and letting the benefits of the IoT devices be available to you without driving again and having it be available to that cyber attack surface. We also have worked with NIST, so that the National Institute of Science and Technology, where we're actually part of the Chariot Challenge, which put through the paces for a public safety initiative and the first responders use cases and scenarios that include active shooter, et cetera. And that also interoperated with our CIT DHS initiative that David mentioned on the Eagle Bank, which I view really as an exercise site and facility for the DHS national security special events of the future. So they can really exercise those issues, and we're participating as a way to, again, protect those IoT devices.
Yeah, excellent. That's really an impressive body of work and capability. You know, one of the challenges I think we have with digital devices in general, but IoT devices is they need to be maintained. The software and the operating systems need to be maintained over their lifetime, but don't necessarily want the manufacturers to have access to the data that's flowing through those devices. So I understand that's a capability that you bring to the table. Can you describe that a little bit more for us?
Yes, and that's a great point. There's actually some pretty stiff regulatory environments coming out where they're demanding that device manufacturers take that responsibility on before deployment. So we're able to work with manufacturers and actually embed secure IoT and the Enclave platform technology into a device before deployment. We have a number of form factors as the 5G comes out, and again, I'll reference that very briefly too, is again, working with CIT, we were awarded a contract to commercialize our 5G platform. So that is an initiative we're working kind of in conjunction with the IoT testbed, and the 5G platform will be released very shortly. We're working with the mobile devices. So again, we've taken our technology, it's very pliable to be able to embed in gateways of all sizes and structures as an appliance-based model. So we can work with current COTS server platforms that are out there to a number of different vendors we're working with there, and deploy that tech to support both the device manufacturers and the end enterprise, which this would be the smart cities in this case. But the manufacturers would have if they don't have a TPM chip as associated with their device, for instance, Access Communications is one of the devices we worked with very early on, and now we've expanded to a number of other platforms as well. They have a couple of camera models that have a TPM chip. We're able to embed the secure IoT technology into the camera and have the basically the security at the edge. We also, if there's not that TPM chip capability, we have a micro gateway that's able to install kind of a bump in the wire model right at the end point. So we can really offer the enterprise to the edge and security to the edge.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. So, I think one of the things that's really interesting to me about this entire project is, our small panel here actually embodies the overall approach that we've been taking, right? So it's, the tagline is community-driven innovation. And so starting with Stafford County, and, I remember the first conversation that Mike and I had about this about 2 years ago, and like, hey, we're doing smart communities technologies, and Mike was like, hey, I've got a community that wants to be smart. So as an example of community-driven innovation, and then one of CIT's role is bringing in innovators like Enclave, like Marianne, to address specific challenges, specific aspects of that overall structure. So this is kind of, I think, a really concise, really great example of how those different roles play together to help move things forward. But as we talk about one of the goals that we have for this testbed and for this community is to be a model for all of Virginia and elsewhere as well. But specifically in Virginia, that other communities can come to the testbed, can talk to Mike and others in Stafford about their experience, and talk about how this type of approach can scale throughout the state. And that's, I think when we talk about a smart state, that's really sort of the focus. How can we learn lessons in one place? How can we put those architectures together in a way that can scale? So, Mike, a couple of questions there, and then Marianne, I certainly want to hear your, thoughts as well. one of the key challenges to this is really the community engagement, the community involvement. I think we've gotten pretty good traction in Stafford. There's still work and education to be done, but based on your experience, how would you advise sort of other communities? How do you build that stakeholder group, the core stakeholder group? How do you start engaging your community to really support what you're doing?
Sure. Well, we started with educating our elected officials early on about our plans and getting their full support, which was really essential. And we have a variety of media sources we use to communicate. And as we do our launch expected later this calendar year, we will, certainly keep them not only the media advised, but also the general public about it. And I believe also the test cases we have really kind of tell the story and help not only our community, but others that might have a particular interest in a particular area. For example, one thing we didn't really touch on is we're testing our wastewater for COVID, and it's a way to perhaps correlate what might be happening, from the Department of Health and what they're finding when they're testing and contact tracing and everything, so we can see if COVID is actually on the decline or increasing within Stafford, and we're looking to test it more than one wastewater treatment plan, and then bring it down even to smaller community levels, and that will all go in the Commonwealth of Virginia's data trust that we're partnering with David and the Chief Data Officer for the Commonwealth, Carlos Rivero. And then the other thing I'll mention is a group called Riot, which is Raleigh Internet of Things. That's a group that we received a Go Virginia grant with. Our Economic Development Director, John Holden, was the one that spearheaded that effort to, and let me just also back up and say he is a true partner in this, and he couldn't be on this call. Unfortunately, he's on vacation, but he's absolutely involved in this at every level. Anyway, the Raleigh Internet of Things is the name of this group, or Riot, and they are a group that helps launch companies in the cyber and as well as Internet of Things space. So these are startup companies. They've been successful in the Raleigh area, and they're looking to do more of the same here by leading some workshops and outreach among the community as well. So we're super excited to work with them as well.
Yeah, so I think two things to unpack there. Let me go back to the use case you mentioned, and it seems like a critical requirement here is to translate all the technology content into sort of easy to understand what's the benefit to the community kind of discussions. Certainly COVID is one that I think everybody can obviously relate to these days, and so that's really great. How do you make the case for things like public safety or autonomous vehicles? Certainly we've seen, for example, in the autonomous vehicle space, that initially you introduce a technology like that, and there's a fair amount of community resistance to those kinds of things just because of the unfamiliarity. Any thoughts on kind of how to do that other than just keep working it?
Yeah, there's a lot of keep working it, I think, but also it's, by being able to demonstrate it in a safe environment first, I think helps instill confidence that the technology will work. The same with drones. I mean, people may not be comfortable having drones buzzing over their heads, but if it's clear that it's being used for a specific purpose to improve public safety and having situational awareness, for example, when there is a crime scene, those are things that really help, I think, instill confidence and understanding in the community. But then also, writing white papers too, and providing the deep dive for those that want to learn more, because we have a highly educated community here, many working in Quantico and FBI and all sorts of agencies up north, and so we have an amazing brain trust within the community itself.
Yeah, that's great. So sort of direct outreach. I know that your public safety officials have done a great job, or are already using drones, for example, and have done a good job communicating with the public. So that's kind of an all of everybody in the county government needs to support that kind of outreach. And then yeah, the media channels, I guess, as well are really important. Not only the white papers, as you say, but the local press coverage, the public events, and those kinds of things are really critical. Marianne, so the other thing that Mike mentioned was this group Riot, which we're working with as well in Stafford County, and I think sort of an important aspect of what we're trying to do here is build capacity, support innovation in the Commonwealth applied to particular problems and markets. And you're kind of in the middle of that process right now, right? I mean, so how do you think about how the entrepreneurial community supports this, and a little bit about your experience going through that kind of early stage startup process?
I really appreciate all the resources available to startups and small innovative businesses. And the exciting part about the smart communities, focus is it's really bringing innovation from all different companies, large and small. So I've been very excited to see the contributions, and the some of our technology partners that we're working with on the device manufacturing side, for instance, are very willing to donate systems, give the tech to participate in these test beds, and really energize the ability to test and thoroughly prove this out before it would be deployed into the community. So I appreciate this approach to really solidify and understand collaboratively what the different scenarios could be in terms of use cases and all the exciting opportunities that come from this tech. So I mean, on the white paper side, I just wanted to point to one, since Mike mentioned, actually our partner OST wrote, that was published in April, on cyberproofing your smart city. So bringing together some real thought leadership in how this particular program could benefit from studying the benefits from the cybersecurity approach and bringing that together. It's a very little picture of it. So that's available and there's so many resources that are out there. I wanted to share too on the collaboration side, and really this energized network of small and large businesses that are taking on this initiative collaboratively. I'll mention again, the Industrial Control Systems Village, for instance, runs Hack the Capitol. It was a participation event last month, sorry, it was in September, that really exercises this challenge and brings some of the best hacker and red teaming kind of forces to be reckoned with in, and challenge this tech and prove that it's really going to do the protection that it's signed up to do. And our tech's included in that enterprise, as well as the first Hack the Planet, which was at DEF CON. So we're putting it out there. There's a lot of opportunities to put the IoT test bed up against some of these best of the best, and really just feel good about it being ready to secure and provide a resilient, technologically advanced and innovative system of systems out there for the community to enjoy and benefit from.
Yeah, right. So you mentioned some partnerships and some opportunities. As this, for you as a small business, is this kind of process to help open up new markets or new partnerships, new things that will help you grow your business?
Absolutely. I think, CIT specifically has offered so many different opportunities, and even in this 2020 virtual world we're in, has leveraged the fact that we are all still able to communicate and participate collaboratively, for instance, today. And we've taken advantage of that. There's been a lot of, CIT hosted what was going to be an in-person conference down in Richmond, Virginia for small businesses, and instead leveraged the technology of virtual conferencing and brought together, and 20 different agencies were represented and supportive of a one-on-one meeting session, as well as collaborative, more of a conference format to share the message, provide these kinds of resources that are available to us, both as small businesses that are looking to fund the future tech. And there's a lot of great funding opportunities that are out there. And the grant I mentioned earlier with CIT CRCF funding our platform to go be ready for 5G, and we're halfway through the process, and it's extraordinary. So there are so many resources available to the small businesses. Just reach out and start taking a look at where you can find some of those, or on websites and other things. CyberBytes is another example, kind of bringing a community of companies to support the education of the future cyber workforce. And that is a lot of companies are rallying around that to make sure that we have a very prepared workforce for this explosive technology-enabled world we're going to live in.
Yeah, excellent. We were very pleased. I know CIT has some new authorities as of July 1st of this year, and one of those is the initiation of the entrepreneurial ecosystem role. So we'll be very active in helping synchronize the entrepreneurial ecosystem across Virginia. And so I know you mentioned you're in one of those facilities right now, Marianne, in Refraction.
Yes.
Riot certainly, and other accelerators, entrepreneurs, university support across the Commonwealth. So I think one of the things that has really been very effective for us is this what's in effect of a very strong public-private partnership without all the paperwork, right? It's just it's a very widespread collaboration focused on sort of this collective set of goals: workforce development, cybersecurity, and economic development for places like Stafford. So that's really very exciting. And the other thing, just to touch on briefly, I think you kind of referenced the resources, but clearly funding is always a challenge, a critical sort of issue that everybody faces in terms of moving these types of projects forward. So, without going too much detail there, I mentioned that we've been fortunate, we've been successful, I think, in bringing together a variety of different funding streams now. We talked about the federal funding through DHS, the types of support funding that you mentioned, Marianne, in terms of the entrepreneurial community. Mike, I know you've been very active in CARES Act funding and helping secure that kind of thing, as well as sort of targeted state level funding. So I think for people who are listening, our communities around the area, funding is always one of the questions that comes up, and I think part of the message, part of our collective experience is really you have to pull all of those threads at the same time. You have to bring all of those stakeholders to the table and engage them in the overall process. So that's
one thing, if I could add too, with the startups. So Air Wireless is another partner for the test bed, and David helped fund that to bring internet service to 30 homes in a very rural part of Stafford where there is no connectivity. And obviously, you can't be a smart community without connectivity. And so these are school-age children that have a need to learn. The county and the school system equipped every student with a Chromebook. But again, without connectivity, you can't distance learn. So we're working with Air Wireless to bring service to those 30 homes. And then as part of CARES Act money, that spawned doing additional funding so that we could get those, even without school-age children in that community, internet service. So it's again a great example of how some seed money can help bring other things to bear, and we're really excited about the prospect of getting some residents that had no hope of ever having internet service with the strong prospect of getting it very shortly here.
Yeah, I think that's a great example, and again, at the state level, the governor has committed tens of millions of dollars, even in this difficult environment, to achieve universal broadband access within the Commonwealth. And so I think the picture that's emerging here on sort of the technology side, the architecture side, is exactly that. Let's connect everybody. Let's protect the information. Look at the types of sensors that are going to provide value added to the community. Test those things out. The Commonwealth Data Trust that you mentioned provides us a secure state level, both secure information sharing platform as well as approved legal agreements for information sharing approved by the Attorney General. And so we've really, to my mind, I think I'm very proud of the fact that we've been able to provide this full stack set of layers that now provide a secure foundation that anybody can build on. And I think that's really a great achievement that we're bringing to fruition here, both in the test bed and then in the real world in Stafford County. So very exciting there. All right, so any other thoughts on how we can bring these kinds of things to other communities? What are challenges that you see? What are some of the challenges that we've experienced just in this implementation so far? I know I've learned way more about permitting and easements and construction permits than I ever thought I would be interested in. But what kinds of lessons have you learned? Have we learned? Mike, maybe start with
Sure.
you.
So yeah, I think the importance of building partnerships, defining them well, and then having really good project plans where you can really plan out the ultimate implementation, and seeking partnerships and funding opportunities and sponsorships as well, because a lot of companies are interested in being able to showcase their technologies and prove them, and here's an opportunity to do it. And so I think there could be a win-win in those situations. And then also, making sure that we keep our elected officials and senior leaders on board with everything and aware of what we're doing, because we cannot do it without their support either.
Yeah, great. Yeah, absolutely right on target there. So Marianne, any thoughts from your perspective in terms of kind of the lessons you've learned, and challenges that communities might face in thinking about projects like this?
Well, I think there's definitely a world before 5G and a world after 5G, and I think that's one area that I really appreciate CIT and the Stafford County IoT testbed taking that on head on, because we're really, I think there are a lot of lessons yet to learn on that in terms of how vast and explosive it really will be. So it's exciting to see the lean forward approach that's happening there. With that, I think it's also important as we work with a lot of different technologies, and AR Wireless is one of our new partners as well. And I love the CIT community of small businesses and working together. Mutual Link is another one. We're working with a lot of these interoperability, as well as the Communications Foundation, which is the AR Wireless. And one of the beauties of Enclave and our approach really has been we're device agnostic. So whether it's a very, very old control system that's been in place for tens of years, or if it's all the way to the newest of the new, that's not going to challenge our ability to secure it. So the approach we've taken is really not tied to the operational system or the operational technology device itself. It's a platform that really starts with zero trust and manages from there. So I think with that, if people can keep, one of the challenges then is the fact that it is such a paradigm shift. We're really standing up new networks, if you will. And as long as the world out there can keep an open mind and not try to apply an IT security approach to an OT problem, then I think we're in great shape. So that's basically some of the challenges I anticipate.
Just a simple challenge like that, right? And
yeah.
not getting your things and your computers mixed up. All right, very good. So, I think we've tried to convey in this session really, a couple of things. One is the sort of the journey that we've been on, and starting several years ago, for Virginia, this has been close to 4 years now that from the very first back of the envelope, hey, wouldn't this be a cool thing to do, to now on the verge of actually really putting in place a substantial new structurally sound architecture and approach to smart communities. So I think that, as people think about what it takes to do something like this, that journey is critical. We talked about bringing in the stakeholders early, the elected officials, building those communities of stakeholders, piecing together the funding sources to make it happen, and providing that extensive kind of support that's there. I think the second thing that's important to me is this community-driven innovation, and we have been very explicit from the start in starting with communities and issues that are important to them, not starting with a technology solution that happens to be out there and that somebody is interested in selling. And so to me, that goes directly back to building those stakeholder communities as a start. Who are the champions in Stafford County? Mike and John Holden, you mentioned. Who are the leaders in a community who can provide support, can provide the approval to move things forward? In Stafford, it's been fantastic, right? Every single part of the government that we've interacted with, from the permitting to the schools to the tourism bureau to the economic development to the chief technology office, has been hugely supportive right down the line, and then the county council and the county leadership as well. So that's critical. And then I think the third pillar of our state action plan is making these opportunities available to all Virginians. We want everybody to have access to the economic opportunities. That comes back down to the connectivity. First get connected, and then once that connectivity is there, we can layer so many capabilities on top of that. And finally, I think in summary, I would say that we've been very deliberate about taking this bottoms-up approach. Not starting with necessarily let's fly some UAVs, or let's put autonomous vehicles on the road, or do these cool things. Those tend to be flashy. Those tend to get a lot of publicity. We've been very deliberate about starting from the bottom. How do you connect information? How do you protect information? How do you share that information in a way that respects privacy and in a way that's secure? And those foundations then are what will enable us to do amazing things going forward in the very near future. So that's been critical to what we're doing. So as you hopefully can tell, we're really excited about the journey we've been on and what we've achieved to date, and now I think 2021, we're just getting ready to see the groundbreaking for the first parts of the actual brick and mortars future development in Stafford County, and so that will really be the crowning jewel in what we're doing here. So with that, let me do just final thoughts here. Any last parting comments for people? Mike, why don't we start with you?
Sure. Well, I think as this evolves, we're going to have a lot of good test cases. We'll do white papers. We'll have information available to share. And like all local governments, I feel networking and sharing are vital to success, and we'll be happy to entertain visits from others and show you what we've learned and share the good stories and the bad stories from all of this. So thank you.
Yeah, hopefully not too many bad stories.
Right.
Marianne, any final thoughts?
So I appreciate the opportunity. We will as well be publishing use cases across all the different types of smart city environment use cases that apply, and we'll be sure to get that out there. We're also very interested in in educating and supporting the learning process. So just please let us know how we can help in those engagements. But we continually offer to sit on panels, do training sessions, lunch and learn, not specific to our technology per se, but just really specific to the challenge that is out there to make sure that we secure the smart communities of the future.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you. I think that continued public outreach and education is a critical piece of what we all do. So, and I think from CIT's perspective, it's just exciting to be at the leading edge, to be able to work with such great groups of people, Stafford County and Marianne, small innovative companies as well as the larger companies, and see that really be a thriving ecosystem. I will say that although CIT is primarily focused and primarily funded by the Commonwealth of Virginia, we do also have both a national and an international perspective. We've certainly have interacted with a number of international partners, both companies and in a couple of cases governmental entities. The work that I mentioned through DHS has a federal footprint, a national footprint, and so we're very much interested in continuing to be a resource, not just in Virginia, but for anybody who's interested. So with that, let me wrap it up. Thank you so much for joining as an audience. Thank you so much for listening to what we have to say, and Mike and Marianne, just many thanks to you both for your work and for your participation in the panel. So with that, thank you very much, and I think that wraps up our session.
Thank you.
Thank you.